My wife secretly inherited $300, $0 from her estranged father's estate, then convinced me to sign away my rights to our house, only to find out she's been planning to sell it all along. Now she's claiming I owe her $150, $0 in investment profits, and the lawyer says I might lose everything over her deception. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. It all started with what seemed like a typical marriage, me, Jake, and my wife, Lisa. We'd been together for about 8 years, married for 5. At first, everything was perfect. She was beautiful, fiery, smart, and everyone told me I was lucky. But in the last year, things started to feel off. Little things. She'd be on her phone more often, hiding her screen when I walked into the room. She'd get defensive when I asked about her day, and lately she'd be coming home late, claiming work was piling up. I brushed it off at first, telling myself I was just paranoid or overthinking. Then I noticed she was acting weird around money. She'd always been good with our finances, but suddenly she was secretive about her phone and her emails. She'd get defensive if I tried to look at her bank statements, saying it was none of my business. One night I decided to check her email while she was out with her friends. I wasn't snooping, just curious, until I saw an email from some guy named Mark. It was recent and it wasn't about work. It was about meeting up, about getting together and keeping it a secret. My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I knew then that something was seriously wrong. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right there. I kept digging his emails, her texts, even some photos she'd forgotten to delete. I found a hotel reservation with her name on it for 2 nights from a week ago. She had been cheating on me. I couldn't sleep that night, feeling sick, betrayed, and angry. How could she do this? After everything we'd been through, after building a life together, she was out there lying, sneaking around, fucking another man. It was like my whole world was crashing down. The next day I confronted her. I was trembling, voice tight with rage. I showed her the emails, the hotel reservation, the texts. Her face went pale for a second, then she started to lie. She said Mark was just an old friend, someone she'd been helping with some work stuff. Said I was paranoid, jealous, making it all up in my head. She even said I was imagining things, that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I saw the way she hesitated, the way her eyes darted around. The truth was in her guilty silence. She called me crazy, said I was making a mountain out of a molehill. She told me I was overreacting because I was insecure and that I needed to trust her, but I didn't trust her anymore. I felt like I'd been punched again, this time in the stomach. The betrayal cut deep and I was furious. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she betray me like this after all we'd been through? I felt a mixture of heartbreak and rage, and I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what yet. All I knew was that my wife had been cheating on me, and I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. After that confrontation, everything spiraled faster than I could keep up with. Lisa kept insisting it was nothing, just a misunderstanding. She told me Mark was just a friend, that I was overthinking, that I was jealous and insecure. She threw in some tears, some I love yous, and insisted she'd never do anything to hurt me. But I could see through her act. She was good at lying, way too good. The way she avoided eye contact, her nervous fidgeting, everything screamed guilt. Still, I was in shock, so I didn't kick her out or do anything drastic right away. I just told her I needed space and time to think. Over the next few days, I couldn't focus on anything else. My mind kept replaying everything I'd found, every lie she'd told, every moment I'd missed. I started to dig deeper into her financials because, honestly, I was trying to figure out how much of my life was a lie. Turns out Lisa had inherited $300, $0 from her estranged father's estate a few months ago. She kept it a secret, telling me she didn't want to worry me. But more than that, she'd convinced me to sign away my rights to our house, our shared home, under the guise of protecting us from some legal complication. I remember signing those papers, thinking I was doing what was best for us, but now I realized she had some other plan. Then I found out she'd been planning to sell the house all along. I uncovered emails from her lawyer about listing the property, and she'd been pushing me to sign paperwork that I now suspect was part of her scheme to get rid of everything we owned. She told me it was just for tax reasons, but I saw through her lies. She was planning her escape and I was just a pawn in her game. The more I learned, the more furious I got. How could she manipulate me like this? How could she betray me, then turn around and act like the victim? One night I caught her sneaking out again. She claimed she was going to meet her sister, but I knew better. I followed her and she went to a hotel downtown. I saw her with Mark. They were in the lobby, laughing, touching, definitely more than friends. I felt my blood boil. That was the moment. I knew I had to take control of my life. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. I realized she'd been lying about her inheritance, her plans for the house, her entire life with me. All the while she was cheating, scheming, and preparing to leave me with nothing. The next day I sat down with a lawyer. I wanted to understand my rights, especially after discovering the inheritance and her plans to sell the house. The lawyer was blunt. My wife had been planning all this behind my back. She'd inherited money, used me to sign away our shared property, and now she was claiming I owed her $150, $0 in investment profits from the estate. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was trying to spin it as some kind of investment scheme, claiming I was entitled to a cut. But I knew she was just making up stories to cover her tracks. It hit me that I was in deep trouble. The lawyer told me I might lose everything, the house, the savings, even my rights to the inheritance if I didn't act fast. I felt like I'd been hit by a train. How had I been so blind? How had I let her manipulate me for so long? I was furious, hurt, and completely betrayed. I realized I had to get out of this mess, but I didn't know how. All I knew was that my wife had lied, cheated, and schemed her way into a life that wasn't hers to take. I was at a crossroads, and I knew I had to fight for what was mine. The more I dug into her financial mess, the clearer it became that Lisa had been planning this all along. She inherited that $300, $0 from her father's estate, something she kept secret, probably because she knew I'd never agree to her selling the house or giving her control of everything. She kept telling me she wanted to protect us, but it was all a lie. She was just planning her escape, and I was the fool who signed away our house without even fully realizing what I was doing. The papers I signed, she made sure I did them without reading the fine print, probably knowing I'd never suspect her real intentions. She kept insisting she was right, that I was just paranoid and jealous, but I could see her. Nerves cracking. She'd get defensive, snap at me for not trusting her, and then turn around and accuse me of not supporting her dreams. She'd say I was insecure because I was worried about her having a little affair. That's when I realized her lies were just piling up. The more I questioned her, the more her story changed. First, she was helping a friend. Then it was just a fling, and somehow I was the one making it all about me. One night I caught her texting someone again. This time her phone was open on the table and I saw the conversation. She was planning to meet Mark again, talking about how perfect it all was, and she kept saying she'd finally get rid of that stupid house and be free. I couldn't believe what I was reading. That's when it hit me. I was just a pawn in her game and she was already planning her future without me. She had been lying to me from the start, using my trust to get what she wanted. I decided I had to do something. I couldn't keep living like this, wondering if she was cheating, if she was planning to leave me with nothing. I reached out to a lawyer again, asking about my rights, about the inheritance, about the house. That's when I learned she'd been transferring money from the estate into her own accounts, probably trying to hide her assets. She'd been quietly selling things, planning her exit, and I was just a fool who trusted her. I felt betrayed all over again, but now I was angry. Angry at her lies, her manipulations, her betrayal. Then I found out she's been claiming I owe her $150, $0 in investment profits from her inheritance, saying I'd made some kind of profit from her money that I'm supposed to pay her back. The lawyer told me that's just her way of trying to justify her lies, but I knew the truth. She'd been scheming to get as much out of me as she could, and now she was trying to turn the tables. I felt sick. How could she do this? How could she lie for so long, cheat on me, and then try to make me pay her? The rage was building, but I also felt a deep sadness, a sense of loss I couldn't quite explain. I decided I couldn't stay in this marriage anymore. I couldn't trust her, not after everything I'd uncovered. I told her I wanted a divorce, that I was done being played. She went ballistic, said I was throwing away years of love, that I was being unreasonable, that I was just jealous and insecure. She called me possessive, paranoid, even crazy. But I knew the truth. I'd been blind, but now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a schemer, and a cheat. I felt like I'd been living in a nightmare, and I knew I had to get out before she drained me completely. The thing is, I'm not just angry anymore. I feel betrayed on a fundamental level. My trust is shattered, and I don't know if I can ever forgive her. But I do know one thing: she's not going to get away with this. Not without consequences. I've already started talking to a lawyer about fighting for my rights, about protecting what's mine. I don't want to be the fool who gets played and loses everything. I want to rebuild my life, but I know it's going to take time. She's left a trail of lies and deception, and I'm just starting to pick up the pieces. The more I uncovered, the more it felt like I was trapped in some twisted game I never signed up for. Lisa kept spinning her lies, insisting she was innocent, that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous because I was insecure. But I wasn't buying it anymore. Every new piece of evidence, every hidden email or text, just confirmed what I already knew deep down. She had been planning her escape for months, maybe longer. She kept telling me she loved me, that I was the only man for her, but her actions told a different story. Her secret meetings, the sneaking around, the inheritance she kept hidden, all of it pointed to one thing. She wanted out, and she wanted as much as she could get before she left. That's when I realized she'd been using me from the start. The inheritance, the house, the money, all of it was part of her plan to leave me high and dry. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I thought I knew her, trusted her. But the Lisa I knew was just a mask, someone who was pretending to be the loving wife, while behind my back she was scheming her future with Mark and the money she inherited. The thought that she might have been cheating on me even before all this started made me sick. I started asking myself, how long had she been lying? How long had she been planning to leave me? Then I remembered the day she'd convinced me to sign away my rights to our house. She said it was just a precaution, that it was for tax reasons. But now I see it was all part of her plan. She wanted me out of the house so she could sell it, cash in, and run. I found out from my lawyer that she'd already gotten the estate money, and she was planning to sell the house without telling me. She told me she loved the house, that it was our home, but I could see now she saw it as just a stepping stone to her freedom. One night I followed her again. This time I was determined to catch her in the act. She met Mark at that same hotel, and they were all over each other. She looked happy, carefree, like she was already gone. That was the moment I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't just sit around and let her drain everything from me. I called my lawyer the next morning, told him everything I'd found, and asked about my options. The truth was, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I couldn't let her keep lying, scheming, and stealing from me. My lawyer explained that Lisa was trying to manipulate the situation, claiming I owed her investment profits from the inheritance, that I'd somehow made money off her estate and needed to pay her back. It was a load of crap, but it was enough to throw me into a panic. If she could convince a lawyer I owed her that kind of money, I might lose everything: our house, my savings, my future. She was trying to turn the tables to make me look guilty, and I felt the rage boiling inside me. How dare she lie so blatantly? How dare she think she could get away with this? I felt like I was losing my mind. I'd been the trusting husband, the guy who believed in honesty and loyalty. But now I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, selfish woman who'd been planning her escape while pretending to be the perfect wife. I started questioning everything: the memories, the promises, the love. Was any of it real? Or was I just a fool who'd been played from the start? I knew I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep living in this mess. I told her I wanted a divorce, that I was done with the lies and betrayal. She flipped out, of course. Accused me of being possessive, insecure, crazy. Said I was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. But I knew the truth now. Trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. And I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything I had built. Not without a fight. I've started collecting evidence, speaking to other lawyers, and preparing myself for what's coming next. I don't know exactly how it'll end, but I do know I won't be her victim anymore. At that point, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down at a mess I didn't even fully understand. My wife, Lisa, kept pushing her lies, insisting she was innocent, that I was just jealous, insecure, and paranoid. But I wasn't buying it anymore. Every lie, every cover-up just confirmed what I'd already suspected. She'd been planning her exit for months, maybe even longer. She inherited a fortune, manipulated me into signing away our house, and now she was trying to squeeze every penny out of me just before she left. She kept insisting that she loved me, that I was the only one for her, but her actions told a different story. I found her secret emails, her meetings at the hotel, her plans to sell the house. All of it pointed to one thing. She was done with me, and she was making sure she'd walk away with the biggest payout possible. I was furious, hurt, and feeling more betrayed than I ever had in my life. One night, I decided I had to catch her in the act, so I followed her again. I saw her meet Mark at the hotel, and they were all over each other. She looked happy, carefree, like she'd already made her escape. That was the moment I knew I had to act. I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. I called my lawyer the next morning, told him everything I'd seen and found. I wanted to know my rights, my options. The lawyer was blunt. Lisa was trying to manipulate the situation, claiming I owed her $150, $0 in investment profits from her inheritance. That was her way of trying to justify her scheme, but I knew it was bullshit. What really scared me was the possibility of losing everything, our house, my savings, my future, because of her lies. She'd been transferring money from her inheritance into her accounts, probably trying to hide her assets. She was planning to sell the house behind my back, and I was just a pawn in her game. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach again. How had I missed all of this? How had I been so naive? I told her I wanted out. I told her I was done being played. She went ballistic, screaming, crying, calling me possessive, crazy, jealous. But I didn't care anymore. I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative liar who'd been scheming to leave me with nothing. I felt a deep sense of loss, yes, but also a burning need to protect what's mine. I can't let her take everything I worked for, not without a fight. So now I'm gathering evidence. I've been talking to lawyers, trying to figure out how to protect myself. I've already started a legal fight to claim my rights to the house and the inheritance. I know she's trying to spin it as her money, her inheritance, but I have proof that I was manipulated into signing away my rights. I'm not going to let her get away with this, not without a fight. The hardest part is accepting that the woman I loved, the woman I married, was capable of this level of deception. It's like waking up from a nightmare. I keep asking myself how I didn't see it sooner, how I missed the signs. But now I see clearly. Lisa was never the person I thought she was. She's a schemer, a liar, and a user. And I'm just trying to pick up the pieces and figure out how to move forward from here. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I won't let her win. Not this time. Looking back now, I realize that this whole nightmare has been a brutal lesson in trust and deception. I thought I knew Lisa, thought she was the woman I was going to spend my life with. Turns out, she was planning her escape right under my nose, manipulating every situation to her advantage. Her inheritance, the house, the fake stories about helping friends, all part of her grand scheme to get out with as much as she could take. And I was just the idiot who signed away everything, trusting her words instead of reading the fine print. The worst part is how it's changed me. I used to believe in honesty, loyalty, and sticking things out. Now I see the world differently. I'm more cautious, more guarded. I've learned that sometimes the person you love the most can turn out to be the biggest liar. That betrayal cuts deep, and it takes a long time to heal from something like this. But I also learned that I can survive it. I've started rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've hired a new lawyer, and we're fighting to get my rights back, my house, my inheritance, my dignity. I've cut ties with Lisa completely. I don't want her in my life anymore. I don't want her draining me or manipulating me. It's hard, and some days I feel like giving up, but then I remind myself that I deserve better. I deserve honesty, respect, and a fresh start. If there's one thing I want to say to anyone reading this, it's this: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you love someone. Be vigilant with your money and your legal rights. And most importantly, listen to that little voice inside that tells you when something's off. Because if I hadn't started digging, I might have lost everything: my home, my savings, and even my sense of self. Now I'm focusing on moving forward. It's not easy, and I know I'll carry these scars for a while. But I'm determined to come out of this stronger, to rebuild what I lost and maybe someday find someone who truly values honesty and loyalty. I don't regret loving Lisa, but I do regret not seeing the truth sooner. And I hope anyone else out there can learn from my story: trust but verify. Protect yourself, because not everyone has your best interests at heart. I've learned that the hard way.